With time comes change, and with change, there's also stagnation, or the refusal to change. Video games have come a long way. Think back to your beloved Super Nintendo. Now look at what we have. We have graphics that rival how we see our world. We have games that mimic our third dimension. We have ideas and concepts that wouldn't be able to be experienced with the same impact if it were in any other medium. With that, there are franchises that have been established from the beginning that are still present to this day, and others new and fresh. But with their birth and time being a constant, they inevitably have to answer the forced question of change. There are many instances of gaming franchises and IPs that have suffered with time and needed a fresh coat of paint, so to speak, but sometimes the color was just too drastic of a change. What made the original idea popular or beloved by the community, that spark was lost under it. Stagnation is one surefire way to kill a gaming franchise. Of course, there are exceptions. So companies will try to put a new spin on the old formula. It's inherently risky, so few companies will go for this idea as a last Hail Mary to revitalize a series. Why take a chance when they can feed us the same slop and say it's new? Another option would be to prey on the fans' nostalgia with remakes and reboots. Ultimately, it's up to the fans, the audience that support their beloved franchises and characters, that decide if the change was worth it. A phrase as old as time itself is that, ironically, time waits for no one. It's no shocker, and I don't need to remind you, but everyone is going about their day looking for the newest, hottest thing. It's no wonder apps like TikTok rose to fame as it did. It satisfies that quick flash of dopamine everyone craves. Like drugs, but with less dying and more brain rot. And no, I'm not above it. I too indulge, and it's not unlikely at times I'll go down a rabbit hole and seem like I can't stop scrolling. Someone's gonna watch all those FNAF edits. Something is always going on, so I'd say our attention spans aren't what they used to be, or as patient. Likewise, it would be acceptable to say I get bored of games too fast. I want something new, something fresh. And companies have to remedy this when making a sequel. The same routine will get boring after a while, the same dance will become tiring, and the same joke will become old. Over the years, there have been countless times where developers have brought back old franchises as a way to make a comeback. A new entry in the series for the modern world. Some try to reinvent the wheel, some even getting too comfortable with the bare minimum. Some might even Frankenstein a franchise with another genre. As is the case with Rareware's iconic duo, Banjo-Kazooie, a platformer with an emphasis on collecting various items, solving puzzles, and defeating bosses. A nice, cheery, fun game that many adored and have many fond memories of. Banjo-Kazooie released a couple years after Super Mario 64, which set the industry standard of what a good platformer with amazing level design and music score should be. Critics and fans applauded the level design and music of Banjo-Kazooie, some even saying it surpassed Super Mario 64. What set Banjo apart from Mario would probably have to be the writing. There was added humor and characters to talk to in Banjo-Kazooie. The game was more lively. It's not to say Mario 64 wasn't, but it did feel lonely walking down the halls of an empty castle. Whereas in Banjo, there were characters with their own personalities that you could talk to. So after years of laying dormant with no sequel, how did we go to a car game? Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts took a turn and deviated from what the game originally was. From platformer to car builder. It was fair to see that fans of the series were appalled to see their beloved franchise morphed into this new shape. Take the collectathon and characters of Banjo-Kazooie and shoehorn a system where you build various contraptions that can either fly, drive, or float to complete challenges. The platforming is basically non-existent. The core of the gameplay is set around vehicles to traverse the variety of levels. The combat can be summed up to either ramming into enemies at Mach 10 or shooting them down with projectile weapons. And how do you obtain said weapons? And for that matter, any of the plethora of vehicle parts? Well, by exploring the hub world for these little crates. With all that being said though, I liked it. Now I have to preface, I did not grow up with Banjo-Kazooie. Nuts and Bolts was my first experience with the franchise, so I had no previous knowledge of how a Banjo title should be. But my little 10-year-old self was having so much fun running around finding these crates and wondering what new parts I would unlock. It was a game, to me at least, where my creativity could run wild. It reminded me of Legos where you could buy one set, but the back of the box encouraged different builds. Not only that, but later I found out the game was janky. It's not perfect, so you could visit places in the hub world, the developers didn't intend for you to visit so soon into your playthrough, which would result in you being able to breeze through the early challenges with higher tier parts. I know I'm in the minority when it comes to liking this game, but Microsoft did severely cripple the Banjo franchise, and pretty much extinguished any sort of future sequels with how badly Nuts and Bolts was received. Microsoft's mistake was that they didn't make a Banjo-Kazooie title. If it ain't broke, why fix it? However, what if you don't fix it, but put a new spin on it? Chess is a game of strategy that dates back apparently 1500 years according to Google. You must think ahead of your opponent and analyze the board. You must consider where pieces might go and where your pieces might have the better advantage to, eventually, checkmate your opponent's king. I don't think I have to go into the nuances of chess. Everyone knows chess. I'm not saying everyone knows how to play it, but know of it. I also know chess is not everyone's cup of tea. You might look at it and say, that's a game for old people. To be fair, at first glance it doesn't look all too interesting. But I have to say, if you decide to one day learn chess, sit down, maybe have a buddy teach you, or learn from a video, it can be quite rewarding. All you really need to know to get to gaming is the movement of each piece, what check means, and what checkmate looks like. Already I'm not explaining the entirety of the rules either, so chess isn't all that accessible with the bare bones requirements I gave. However, that's not the case in FPS chess. Yes, it's chess with a first-person shooter aspect. Now when you try to take an opponent's piece, the game puts you and your opponent into a 1v1 COD lobby. So take the rules you might know about chess and throw them out the window, because in this game, a pawn can theoretically 1v1 and win you a game. What basically is chess, but with guns. There's also a little bit of Overwatch if I had to make a comparison. Each piece has 2 abilities that can go on cooldown after using them. There's a summoning a bot with the pawn, a grappling hook for the rook, and a holy hand grenade for the bishop, to name a few. What I find interesting is that this was made by a chess lover, no doubt, for how the abilities and weapons almost perfectly represent the piece's role in real chess. For instance, take the queen. The queen can move in any direction, and if she has a piece in her sightlines, she can take it no matter the distance. The queen is a very desirable and powerful piece to keep alive on the board, and FPS chess represents this by having her be pretty much overpowered. She can fly and can use another piece on the board as a human shield, as well as paired with a Gatling gun that shreds health. If that's not enough evidence, look at the rook. The rook can't move diagonally, but it can move any amount of distance it so chooses. Great for sniping a piece that happens to move into its sightline. Similarly, in FPS chess, the rook can cover great distance with its grappling hook and set up a perfect shot to the head. FPS chess is fairly fun and a nice little spin on an old game. Of course, it's nothing to take seriously. Along those same lines, maybe not taking Nuts and Bolts seriously could be the key for Banjo-Kazooie fans to learn to enjoy the car builder. Of course, I would be neglecting the whole reason fans wanted a sequel in the first place. They were looking forward to the good old Banjo-Kazooie formula, but for the modern year of 2008. Regardless, Microsoft tried something new but missed the mark, the essence of what makes a Banjo title. I guess they were trying to break the monotony. Speaking of monotony, aren't you tired of shooting zombies only to die and do it all over again? Endless rounds of hitting the mystery box until you get the ray gun and only to rack up enough money later to hit the pack-a-punch? Do you know where I'm going with this? After 3 mainline COD games featuring zombies, Infinity Ward decided to go to the kitchen to cook up a new take on the zombies formula. Before I continue, I want to mention that yes, I know Modern Warfare 3 had a different take for zombies, which was their survival mode. But I wouldn't view that as a rival to zombies because I believe survival caters towards a different vibe. You face off against bots that are humans with guns, which you could see as a Spec Ops mission that never ends. Or if you were to squint, you couldn't tell that you were playing the campaign or survival. You see, Infinity Ward gave us Extinction in COD Ghosts. Instead of zombies, it's now aliens you fight. And instead of just surviving, it's now an end goal you're working towards. It's now linear progression. The one map you play on in the base game starts the same every time. You have to work your way destroying hives with your drill and scavenge the area for loot and ammo to help you out. The end goal is to set off a nuke, then make your way back to the chopper that left you there. The catch is, unless you're a god at dodging enemies, you won't get far without upgrades. Yes, there's a permanent upgrade/loadout system before you start the match, that you can tweak with points you get by playing the game mode over and over again. The Act-Man already covered this in his video why Ghost was so hated, which should already say something about the game mode, that it will get old fast, and unless you buy the DLC, you're going to be playing the one map over and over again. For the times I played Extinction when Ghost came out, I had a blast. It was the first game I bought with my own money on Black Friday, and to see that the alternate game mode wasn't zombies, I was happy. But change is a scary thing. People are hesitant when they're brought forth with something new, rightfully so. It can either be good or bad, and many don't think the risk is justified. Many are set comfortable with what they had in previous titles that they wish it was just that, stuck in the past. So there are instances where companies answer the call of change, but fans don't want to hear it, where the past was just too legendary that anything new can't live up to it. It's very vice versa. Companies/developers can either want change, or to stick to whatever makes them more money, knowing what makes their audience happy. But if they want change, they then run into the challenge of making something better than what made them so, as to not lose the reputation they've built. Then it's not so unreasonable to say this poses a potential threat to innovation. Take a look at COD's brief venture into movement shooters when they added dashing in Advanced Warfare, and subsequently wall running and double jumping in Black Ops 3. After Titanfall set the new trend of adding more movement-focused gameplay into standard FPS shooters, Call of Duty followed suit. Looking back, it could be seen as a fad, because now we've regressed back to the old boots-on-the-ground shooters, at least in the AAA mainstream. Then let's put the spotlight on the indie scene. One of my favorite indie games has to be the Risk of Rain series. The premise is that the longer you play, the harder it gets, and it doesn't matter how long you've progressed. Basically, you crash land, scavenge for money, and fight the inhabitants of the planet. But as time continues, the game will spawn harder variants of enemies. They could have shields, passive healing, armor, or even the ability to shoot a rocket at you just to scratch the surface. This is where the RNG comes into play. Scattered about are chests that contain items that will provide you with a multitude of effects or stat boosts to make your character essentially a god given with luck, to the point that all you see on screen are numbers and things blowing up because just you walking is enough to make everything spontaneously combust. The game is a rush against the clock to hopefully grow in power as fast and exponentially as possible. As you play, you will also unlock new items and characters to play as by completing challenges that will further increase replayability. One of the big things you'll notice about the game is that it's in 2D. For the sequel, the devs could have just added more items, enemies, and characters. However, during development, the devs played with the idea of a hybrid between 2D but with 3D character models. But at that point, the two sole devs said, fuck it, we're going full third, such as Risk of Rain 2, in full 3D with 3 axes of movement. Understandably, the developers had a whole new batch of problems to address. Some aspects of the game just wouldn't work or translate well in 3D. But with their determination, they made it work. Not only that, they were able to expand the game and give the game more depth, with features to help you attain godlike power more easily, if you were to take the time to understand the game and its new mechanics. Sometimes it just takes changing perspective to make a game better than its predecessor. If you take the same idea, the same feeling of a game, but apply a new take on it, it seems like it can only deepen the game's potential. Then you're not alienating your game from the fans that love it so, because not all will want to follow the new direction the sequels are going in. Speaking of which, Halo fans will love to tell you how their game has been butchered, basically unrecognizable from the golden age of Bungie, as they call it. And I should know, because I am that fan. 343 no doubt took the Halo franchise down a different route. They messed with one of its major components, the Chief. Before Halo 4, the Master Chief was a man of little words and a lot of "I need a weapon." The only thing you need to understand about him is that he will finish the mission in the most badass way. And you as a player should feel badass when playing as him. On the other hand, 343 said, give him feelings. He's more humanized and begins his journey of enlightenment, coming to understand the question of what it means to be human and not just some robot super soldier following orders.
Before this is all over, promise me you'll figure out which one of us is the machine.
Our duty as soldiers is to protect humanity, whatever the cost.
You say that like soldiers and humanity are two different things. I mean, soldiers aren't machines. We're just people.
On the surface, this shouldn't be a bad decision, but it's the story side that fans were really hoping 343 would finally get right. But to no surprise, the story fell flat and shamelessly set up a sequel with the Zalalin, or the Endless. I had to look up the name for them, which is a testament to how forgettable they are. They barely influence the story until towards the end of the game, but even in the first couple of minutes we're shown a sequence of events that unfold that we the player never participated in. It's the Chief and the last remnants of the UNSC fighting off against Atriox's brutes. But in a cutscene. How amazing would it have been if we could have played that out? Chief being brought out of cryo sleep to help with the brute invasion, finding a way to Atriox and having to face off against him. But you still inevitably lose. Already it would have been a better start to the game and set a better tone of hopelessness Infinite was trying to set up. You would feel your defeat a whole lot more and be more determined to rise from the ashes and go toe-to-toe with Atriox once more. But even this is ripped away from us as we come to find out Atriox is somewhere else?
Atriox, hear these words. Even from beyond this life, your will is served.
We don't know. So we the player aren't even given the chance to redeem our beloved Master Chief. Too many years of alienating communities and changing too many things have led to different portrayals of the same game. 343 have lost Halo's identity. A part of me wonders if I'm just hoping to relive the past and too close-minded to the new ways my beloved franchise has changed. But I do know that I'm not needing to replay the campaign anytime soon. Change is an aspect of time, for better or for worse. It's inevitable as the sun rising the next day, if I had to make it poetic. Yet it's not easy to change, just like it's not easy to change one's diet overnight. The fact that we see changes in the sequels we get is good news. There's still hope that things will get better, even if it seems like it's only going downhill. Which poses another question: when is it time to quit? Hand off the franchise to another studio that can maybe recapture the essence of the Golden Age yet again? And that gets me thinking, wouldn't it be better if the community of these games had a say that influenced how a sequel should be? After all, it's the fans that understand the game better than the devs working on it. Team Fortress 2 is known for implementing community-made content into the game as new updates, like maps or cosmetic items. Although it shouldn't be this way, that's the devs' job. Or maybe the franchise is showing its age and it's no longer worth bringing back from the dead. To escape change is to escape time, which in the end is death. Thank you for watching, and if you stuck to the very end, an even bigger thanks. I hope you enjoyed and found anything that I said interesting. I still can't believe that people are actually watching, and we made it to 1,000 subscribers a couple of weeks ago, which, it looked like a ways away. I hope to keep growing, and I hope to see you in my next hyperfixation.